Hello everyone and welcome back to my chatty, sassy channel here on YouTube where we talk about all things luxury, be it luxury fashion, luxury travel, or life's luxuries in general. Today we are doing another in my brand introduction series and we are talking about one of my absolute favorite brands, which is Saint Laurent. So the structure of today's video is going to be that I'm going to tell you about the history, the DNA of the brand, what really makes YSL YSL and why it is that way. And then at the end I will talk briefly about a few of the pieces that I think are very iconic, good starting places to go with in YSL if you are looking at them, be it for small leather goods, bags, shoes, ready to wear. I will be talking through those, and then finally I will be revealing some of the pieces that are on my wish list, which has been updated significantly since my next video is taking you guys to a private event with YSL and my husband and I's VIP appointment. So with that, let's get into the video. Now, the first thing that you need to know about Yves Saint Laurent, the man, is that he was very young when his career in fashion began to take off. At only 20 years old, and after just 3 years in Paris, he was hired on the spot by Monsieur Christian Dior himself after seeing his sketches, and only a year after that, Christian Dior tragically died, and at just 21 years old, Yves Saint Laurent was actually the one who became creative director of this incredible house. And to be able to do that at 21 years old, like at 21 years old, I had just graduated college. I was certainly in no way going to be able to be a creative director of a brand. And even now at 27, there is no way that I could be running a couture fashion house right now. So the fact that he was able to do this at all is just incredible. Now, this job didn't last very long as there were a lot of clashes and overall dislike of the way Yves was taking the house from a design standpoint, in addition to the fact that he had had several mental issues related to his military service in France. Now, he did land on his feet from this though, and in 1962, he opened his own fashion house. He's only 26 years old at this point. Like, he's still a year younger than me right now, and he has opened his own fashion house. And I know that I keep talking about his age, but I think it's important to mention his age because of the fact that he grew up in a different era than what many of his contemporaries did. He did not witness the war, World War II, in adulthood. And I think that because of that, he was seeing Europe in its rebirth phase and in its rebuilding phase, and he wanted to be a part of that stylistically. One of the things that he did is that he put street style that was functional while still beautiful on the runway in Paris. No one had done that before. And then 4 years after opening his couture house, he did something really revolutionary for Paris high fashion, and that was that he created affordable clothing that did not need custom measurements, but rather was ready to wear for any woman at a much lower price point. He wanted fashion to be affordable for those who made it, and this is why there is still the lower priced Rive Gauche line today. But what's really important is that he's the reason why all of these luxury fashion houses do ready to wear. Now, granted, their ready to wear is not necessarily the most affordable ready to wear, but they do produce this today, and it's all because of him. And he did not stop changing fashion here. He went to work on liberating women in the same year as he launched his ready-to-wear collection, creating a tuxedo for women, the lace-smoking tuxedo. Now, it was still highly controversial at the time for women, particularly those of high society, to be wearing pants in public. So to release a woman's tuxedo was huge and just absolutely breaking so many societal rules at one time. Now, this design has since been updated and was actually reintroduced to the brand in 2002, but the women's suiting that they have now is exceptional. In fact, the current collection features a lot of women's suiting that has just been released, and I love the fact that it's still such a part of the brand, having somewhat masculine silhouettes, but tailored in such a wonderful French but also feminine way. And that's very much a part of YSL, is the incredible tailoring that they do. Now, one of the things to realize about Yves is that he had this ability to understand what women actually wanted and how to make those wants beautiful and powerful, and presenting this look of equality in a time where equality was not a thing for women at all. And so the brand is still doing this, and they are taking and tweaking classics like the camera bag and adding additional functionality like the back pocket for a phone. They are bringing in the big bag trend when everyone else was still pushing mini bags and we were returning more to a regular life and needing bigger bags again. They are bringing back gold-plated hardware on their upper level bags. Instead of being like the other brands who are cutting quality, they, like I said, have brought out a whole lot of suiting going on right now, as we have more and more people returning to a physical workplace and needing those professional wardrobes to be updated that we really haven't had to change much since COVID happened. And he didn't stop here. Later on in the same decade, the brand would actually be one of the leaders in the original Free the Nipple campaign, and we still see a lot of those sheer fabrics, sheer materials, sheer tops, sheer dresses still today. And he brought a freedom into women's fashion and designed it very smartly and very tailored that allowed women to live, to move, but also to exist in a way that was powerful and beautiful and practical. And this was something that they could not do with fashion before. Now, like I said, this has been continued, and they have also been producing more androgynous pieces as well in their men's line, which I think is really interesting, in that they have allowed the men's line to be something that women can actually wear depending on the look that you are going for with your pieces. And in fact, many of the men's suiting pieces actually echo that of the women's. And I think that that is a very interesting thing on how they have such similar silhouettes, pieces, fabrics, elements in their men's and women's wear. Now, he did not limit himself by society nor by his own creativity alone. Yves was actually one of the first to normalize collaborations, which is something that, ironically enough, is something that nearly every other major brand has been doing lately, except for YSL. So they sort of started that trend and then have backed away from it, which I think is really interesting as well. Now that particularly so many of us see all these collaborations and are a bit overwhelmed by them, I think it's interesting that they haven't done their own, because that's not really what we want right now. We've had enough of the collaborations. We're ready to move on and to get back to the houses and what they do best. The house itself used to actually be a couture house. They dropped that status in 2002 when Yves retired, and each creative director since then has put their own spin on things. In 2012, we had Heidi Slimane, and she recognized the fact that the modern woman wanted something that was a sharper cut and that had a bit of an edgier style. And so that's where we see a lot of the strong lines coming from. We see a lot of the stronger, heavier hardware things like this YSL logo with sort of that brushed hardware coming in a lot, as well as a lot more hardware on the pieces themselves. She's also the one who introduced the teddy jacket, and that is a piece that has been extremely popular because it brings a lot of really sort of classic Americana, but then adds that touch of French tailoring, adds that high quality of luxury to really bring this piece to an elevated level. I'm currently wearing my husband's. In my past couple of videos, I've been wearing my teddy jacket, and she's done this in a very, very incredible way. Now, the current creative director, Anthony Vaccarello, has actually gone in and softened this edge a bit by adding in some softer fabrics, as well as adding in pieces that have greater movement to add femininity and grace, to be both in contrast but also in tandem with the very edgy style that Heidi made YSL synonymous with. And so he's sort of blended the French and the Italian looks. You see this a lot more in the men's line, but you are seeing it in the women's as well. But the collection that's coming out in the spring, for instance, has a bit more femininity to it while still having those strong edges that Heidi brought the brand to be known for. Now, of course, even as fashions have changed, as creative directors have changed, one thing that has remained the same through the women's wear is their dedication to who the YSL woman is. She's someone who is sophisticated, who is confident, who lets the clothes elevate her while wearing them instead of the other way around. The pieces are not so ostentatious that a woman gets lost in them. She wears them and brings that sense of elegance and style with her. She doesn't need an abundance of logos or crazy colors to be noticed because she is doing that herself and setting her own course and her own path the way that she wants and standing out on her own. She is also, and rather importantly, not the richest woman in the room. YSL has intentionally placed itself as a mid-market priced brand that does have higher levels that you can move up into. But even within that, their ready-to-wear is actually on the more affordable side of luxury ready-to-wear while still having gorgeous pieces, gorgeous fabrics. And that harkens back to how their ready-to-wear got started to begin with. But even looking at the prices of their bags, even looking at the prices of their shoes, while they have some price increases, they're generally not as shocking as most of the other houses. Things like Louis Vuitton, price increases like Chanel's doing, they do increase their prices, and occasionally there have been big jumps because pieces had stayed the same for so long. But even saying that, they are still falling in the mid-range of the luxury houses price-wise. Even my lizard bag was still priced below the price of bags like Louis Vuitton's Capucines or their new Go 14 bag, still well below the price of classic flaps, and even below the price of a lot of similar sized Lady Dior's, even just the regular ones, not even including things like the special variations that you see come out. And so to have an exotic bag still coming under that price range, I think is really, really huge. The brand itself is also focused on sustainability. They do not use real furs typically. There are a couple of pieces they will release every now and again that is a real fur, but mostly they use faux fur, but faux fur without plastics in them, so it is a much higher quality faux fur. In addition, the skins that they harvest for their exotics are done so at the natural end of an animal's life, and so they do this because they want it to be ethically done, and so the animals are ethically treated throughout their entire lives. Now, the products are also not overproduced, and so they typically have a limited range, particularly if they're doing special colors. Special colors are very, very limited. The clothing that they produce, they try to produce limited quantities, and then what does not sell, they generally send to outlets, and as opposed to some brands who destroy any of their goods that don't sell from limited collections. And I think that this is really, really important. It's what turns a lot of people off of brands like Burberry or like Louis Vuitton, is the burning that they do of pieces. And that's not something you really see with Saint Laurent. Now, they are also able to do this because of the fact that they don't have an overwhelming variation in colors, patterns, textures. They don't do a lot of limited edition things the way that you might see with a Louis Vuitton canvas. And because of that, they're able to keep using the same leathers over, the same colors over and over again. Even though they might change the pieces with each collection, a lot of the materials and colors are staying the same, allowing them to just reuse them in different ways throughout future seasons. So when it comes to iconic pieces of the brand, I do want to mention that YSL does have a couple of leathers for you to choose from. Now, they do, of course, have some fabric options. They have suede options in bags, but I think that the most common two that you will see is either their pebbled leather, which hopefully the pebbling is showing up in the camera. I've had this card holder all year, and it has held up extraordinarily well. That being said, I would recommend going to YSL in person, as I have heard from several different people here on YouTube that either when they've gone through like a Nordstrom, Saks type of thing, the YSL stuff they've received hasn't been in as good a shape, as well as sometimes when they've ordered online, it has not been in as good of shape. I will leave my SA's contact information down below, assuming that he is okay with that, so that if you are interested in a piece, you can reach out to Sam. He is absolutely fantastic. The other leather that is very, very common is their smooth leather, and I think their smooth leather also holds up incredibly well. I have not babied this bag at all. I have been honestly probably rougher than I should have been on this bag. I've thrown it in the car, I've taken it out in the snow, out in the rain. I, of course, have my dog. She hasn't scratched this at all. This leather, I mean, it should have scratches all over it for the way that I've used it, and it doesn't have any anywhere. There are no scratches on this bag, and I have used this bag to a point where it should at least have one or two. So I've been extremely impressed. Speaking of really impressed, I do actually recommend both of these pieces. This is the long card holder. It has 5 card slots on the back as well as a zipper component. I have my license, my credit cards are in the back pockets. Then in the middle zipper section is where I put my insurance card as well as some cash to carry around. This bag is one of my top 2 most used bags in my entire collection. And that's because, like I said, it's super, super durable, but also it holds a really good amount and then has this back pocket, which was updated earlier this year. I was actually like the first person to get this because it wasn't even released yet. It had just arrived in the store as the new version. Technically, I don't think that they were even supposed to be selling it yet. But my SA went ahead and sold it to me anyway. So this is a really, really great option. It is iconic to the brand as well. You obviously have the hardware, but if you don't want to have the hardware showing, you can just flip it around with the back pocket being on the front of you. If you are wanting a slightly smaller sized, more structured bag, I would recommend looking at the Kate. You will typically see the Kate in pebbled leather. The camera bag you'll see in pebbled as well as in the smooth leather. Then if you are wanting a slightly bigger bag than the camera bag, I would recommend looking at the College. The College bag has chain straps on it and is a really, really neat bag. It's a bag that I actually quite like, and it's got some flexibility to it for when you're putting things in, which if you're wearing a bigger bag, you want it to have that right balance of structure and flex, and I think that that bag really achieves it. Obviously, a bag like the YSL Care has gotten a lot of attention, but I don't think that it's the most practical bag. It's definitely not where I would start out, although I do think that it's really cool. When it comes to accessories, I do think that they do some incredible belts that are very well priced for the luxury belt realm. I will also say that YSL does actually a really good mock croc, and so if you are looking for a belt and you want a mock croc belt, I actually had a croc belt and a mock croc belt in my hand from them, and it was really hard holding them both next to each other to tell which was which. The only way that I was able to tell was just that one had a slightly different feeling than the other. So that is a really good thing to know. When it comes to their shoes, I'd probably avoid the YSL shoes because I have to size up. I'm normally a 36.5 or a 37. I have to normally go up to at least a 37.5, if not a 38, to get their shoes to fit. And then the shoes are a little bit long because YSL shoes do run very narrow. They're also not known to have the most comfortable shoes. However, my husband does say that their Chelsea boots for the men are very, very comfortable. So if you are a guy looking for a pair of shoes, I think that you just have to size up about like a half size in your shoes. And apparently they're Chelsea boots are very, very comfortable, so keep that in mind. When it comes to ready to wear, they do have a lot of beautiful coats. In my opinion, YSL, if you're looking at a piece of ready to wear from them, I would definitely go with a coat. My husband and I both have teddy jackets. This is actually my husband's that I'm wearing. Mine is pink and black, and you've seen it in the past couple of videos if you've watched those. So I would definitely recommend looking at a coat. They also do wonderful pea coats. Their blazers are incredible, particularly for women. The men's cut in the blazer, they do some very interesting tailoring, but honestly, I do prefer the women's blazers. But the men, and this is gonna sound really, really weird, but the men's t-shirts are actually just their plain non-logo t-shirts. They're expensive, but they are very, very nice. And honestly, YSL's ready-to-wear prices are not nearly as bad as a lot of the other luxury houses are. So definitely, if you are a guy looking at ready to wear, or if you're a woman looking at ready to wear and you are interested in those pieces, definitely look at YSL because they have some really great quality, well-tailored things that fit people really well. I honestly prefer YSL's ready to wear to pretty much any other house at this point because of the way that it fits me, and also the price point is a little bit easier to bear for me. Now, as far as what goes on my wish list, My wish list has changed quite a bit since I initially filmed this video because my husband and I did have a private VIP appointment for the YSL new launch of the women's ready-to-wear collection for fall, as well as for a men's tailoring event that was going on. And we spent about 3 hours, I think it was, at YSL trying on various things, looking at different things, putting outfits together. And like Maya say, he had another girl helping as well as the store manager were actually all with us during this appointment and did a fantastic job at styling things. There are pieces that my husband now really wants from YSL. There are pieces that I really want. I have a belt on my list. You will see that belt in the video. I have a pair of boots on my list. You will see that pair of boots in the video. I have a couple of jackets that I've added to my list. You will see all of this in the upcoming video that I will have posted on Saturday. So with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye!